sorry I'm late. I'm just gonna give it a couple moments so other people can log in because I said 3:20. So just give me a minute. I did want to say that in regards to the post that I did the other day in regards to Emily's feelings and what she writes, one of my biggest issues is that everybody likes to talk about, you know, what people should do and, you know, call people names and stuff like that. But I've said this from the beginning that we got to remember that this is the kind of bullshit that Gabriel had to live through. So I really don't appreciate, you know, when other people are like telling Emily how she should feel or how she should think or what she should say. And also myself, like, it's just not okay. Nor do I think that name calling is a thing that we should be doing in general, not just, you know, because of child abuse, but just, I just don't think that it should happen. But that's, you know, that's just me. So I'm going to start off with the what happened at court today. So in the morning there was a testimony from Deputy Martinez, who was in the ambulance with Gabriel when the first responders sent Gabriel or started doing the transport, and she was the one in there. She was sent by her commanding officer, or however you say it, who he had testified before previously, but she was sent by him, and basically her testimony was, was anybody fighting to try to get on that ambulance with her in regards to Pearl and Asaro? And the answer, of course, was no. Nobody was trying to get on that ambulance with her. The other person that, the next person that testified was a doctor from Children's Hospital. And it was basically the same thing that we heard previously, what injuries he had and the wounds and whatnot. And if you want more details about like that kind of stuff, I did update the video from 2 days ago from the coroner. I updated with the notes that I took in the courtroom. All the notes that I had were all on my phone, and I'm using my phone in order to do these broadcasts, so I wasn't able to access it at that moment. So we did have the next person that was there was the in-home outreach counselor, and she is the one that was visiting weekly between February and March of 2013. She would go to the house and have weekly therapy sessions with the whole family: Asaro, Pearl, Virginia, Ezekiel, and Gabriel. She'd been working in that capacity for about 2 to 3 years, specifically with that children's center. And in order to have that title, you had to have a master's degree and do shadowing of another in-home outreach counselor, and their abbreviation is IHOC. So that particular division or that particular service is a subcontract from DCFS. So DCFS reaches out to, you know, this children's center and then says, we need somebody to, you know, go to this child's house or this family's house. And this is all part of that Family Unity Act, Family Reunification Act situation that DCFS does. So she was there. They had a total of about 5 meetings. One where Asario didn't attend, and one where Ezekiel didn't attend. 2 separate ones, but it was a total of 5 meetings. And they played the 911 call she made in regards to the suicide notes that she received from Pearl. Pearl stated, well, let me go over this. So Pearl, as this IHOC was preparing to leave, she had done the whole counseling session and whatnot, and as she's preparing to leave the house, Pearl shows up and says, here's 2 letters that my other son found, and presented them to the IHOC. And so the notes that supposedly they were written by Gabriel, and this was in the afternoon that day, so it was sometime in the afternoon. They were written by Gabriel and they were given over to the IHOC. And the notes said on there, "I love you so much that I will kill myself, and I love you until you die." And as you all recall, Gabriel was 8 years old and in the first grade. And so if you remember, the majority of people majority of kids who are 8 can't really do those types of sentences or that type of writing. So it was really interesting to watch this whole process. So she called 911, and she asked him a couple times if he wanted to kill himself, and he remained quiet. She asked him how. He remained quiet. And this, of course, she did this all in front of Sarah and Pearl. So the reason she called 911 was because the emergency response team that was affiliated with the children's center was not, they weren't available. So then she talked to her supervisor, and her supervisor told her to contact DCFS, and DCFS did a pretty, the hotline, they did a pretty good investigation, talked to Pearl on the phone, and Pearl was saying that her son found the note in Gabriel's diary, and that Gabriel was acting out because he wanted to go see his grandma, but grandma's sick, and kind of explained that he had been living with his grandma since he was 4, and so the DCFS worker, or hotline worker, was suggesting that Pearl let Gabriel see his grandmother more often because of, it has to be hard to, all of a sudden make this change. And then she talked again to the IHOC, and the IHOC was, she asked her if she felt like this was an imminent threat, or, he was going to hurt himself. And she said, yeah, because he said that he felt that way today. So that was basically the interview, or the testimony on that. So then the cross-examination was just going over basics like, do they get referrals from DCFS? What is the family preservation? And who did she deal with? So she dealt directly with Pat Clement and Gregory Merritt. More specifically, 2 out of the 5 visits, she met Pat Clement at the location. And when asked if she was, if she noticed if the children were dressed appropriately, if the kids were well taken care of, if she had any concerns about child safety aside from, the suicide notes, she said everything seemed fine on her end. And then they asked her at one point, was it her job to go through all the rooms and all the refrigerator and make sure that was safe, that everything was safe and everything was appropriate? And she said no, it wasn't her job. They said, well, whose job was it? She said it was the DCFS worker. So she specifically said it was the social worker who should have been, making sure that the kids were dressed appropriately, that they were healthy, and that there was, the rooms were taken care of and stuff like that. It got a little heated in there. So one of the things that it just got heated because it was one of those things where even me and you, like, if we go into a house and we see something wrong, we have thoughts. We have, we would think, okay, maybe something's not right here. And I think that was one of the frustrating parts about this testimony, is that there was obviously something was obviously wrong. I don't know what it looked like in there, but obviously something was wrong, and they just feel like she should have probably known more, or just kind of guesstimated, being that she is a mom herself. The next person that was interviewed was the security officer instructor. So this guy was specifically the one that did acknowledge the application Asaro had submitted, along with testified about his knowledge in regards to security training, and just he acknowledged that he knows all the rules and regulations for guard permits, for the guard application. So basically what they talked about on this was the guard card, the armed baton, pepper spray cards or licensing. So I'm sorry, not the armed, but the baton and pepper spray. So obviously Sarah had a guard card, and in order to get baton training, you do have to have a guard card. So they were presenting the evidence of that guard card along with the application for both pepper spray and baton. And then on each training there is testing done at the end. But specifically on baton training, there is testing done at the beginning and the end. Yeah, at the beginning and the end. So in the first part of the pepper spray, he passed that test. So in part of that testing was regulations and use of pepper spray and stuff like that. And then we got to the baton portion, and they talked about he didn't pass the first baton training class. He had to take it again, and he passed that one. But in part of the thing was it showed what are the vital areas of the body that you should not hit with the baton, and he did pass that. He got that question correct, so he knew not to use baton in a destructive way. They also gave him first aid training, and in the practical course where he actually physically used the baton against somebody else, he did pass that and was considered a good student. There is a manual that came with the baton training that has like extensive baton information, appropriate use. And in there it says specifically use of a deadly weapon against assault of hand and feet is defiable, and baton use is only for defensive purposes. So that was specific in the training. And the cross-examination just asked things like is there background checks, and do the background checks go into like criminal history and stuff like that. Of course the guy didn't know, because the background checks are done by live scan, and it gets submitted to the Department of Justice and the FBI, and from there they that just tells them whether or not they can become a guard or whatnot. So then the last person that was that testified was an office manager in a doctor's office, and she just testified in regards to the doctor's notes that were submitted to the school in regards to Gabriel, and a couple of other doctor's notes, but she just verified the validity of those notes, or whether or not they were fake or real. And the majority of the reason that she knew that the notes that were fake, she knew the differences because of maybe even just the font, or there was typos, or maybe there was like just something not in the correct lining on the paper. So it was just it was just these intricate details that she intimately knew because she worked in the office for so long, that she was able to pinpoint and say that's how she knew that those particular absence notes were incorrect, or were not real. So that ended the day today. We ended it early. Oh, and she also talked about the last time that they had noted that Gabriel was in the doctor's office was 1/20/2012. So all the doctor's notes that were listed for like April 29th of 2013, of course, were not real documents. And then that's it. So I don't think you guys have any questions today. You do? Okay. It seems obvious that Pearl's intellectual hearing will be a waste of time. Pearl knows how to follow up with. Well, yeah, but we can't, because it's being claimed, we can't just take that away. It is against constitutional rights to take that away, and by all means we have to stick within that. Otherwise, you can get a mistrial and end up freeing somebody who needs to not be free. So by all means, she wants to claim that she's intellectually disabled. Let's do the hearing. Was Gabriel's father there today? No, he was not. Anything else? I'll do this for like 5 more minutes. But what I was thinking is that I'll probably do, I'll repost. I know a lot of people keep asking questions like who I am and what my business is in regards to this case. And so I was thinking about maybe reposting the article that was done. It's in Spanish though, and I don't really read Spanish, so I can repost that. And then also I was thinking about maybe doing a Q&A this weekend. I don't know. But I want to be able to make sure that everything's clear to you guys and that, kind of get some of these questions out. Did Pearl hate Gabriel's father? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know much about Pearl other than she killed an innocent baby for who knows what. Some kind of sick, sadistic pleasure that is, it's beyond my understanding, my comprehension. I can't understand why. It's hard because, like, when you sit in that courtroom and you listen and you see things, how it's hard to understand why. It's hard to understand why, but it's hard to understand how a person could just sit there and do that. I can't explain any better than that. I know that he's better off now, because that 8 months, I don't know. It was once said to me by someone that the majority of POWs don't go through this kind of torture. With that being said, I've never heard of anybody being tortured as badly as Gabriel was. The question was, will the people testifying now come again for Pearl's trial? I believe so. That's one of the reasons why I'm worried about giving too much detail, is because I don't want to give out everything where people can look it up and find out information. I will give out like facts, for instance, like the coroner information, like that is stuff that can be retrieved from transcripts and grand jury trial transcripts. The pictures that are in evidence, those I believe are still under, because it was like, I think a year or two ago, there was pictorial evidence that was submitted to the court, and it was under lock and seal because the majority of it is so bad that they didn't want to release it. So a lot of the evidence that's been shown, I don't know that it's been released publicly via reporters wanting to like get that from the courts, but there is some stuff that it needs to stay in there, and it needs to be brought back up into the court. It needs to be brought back into the court's eye or the court's mind, which, it's the same judge for all three cases. So I'm sure, judge is not going to forget any of these pictures anytime soon. But, we need to make sure that we're not tainting the next set of jury and the next set of jury after that. We got to make sure that we have some stuff that's under wraps, which is, it's a really fine line. That's why on some of these, like, I'll tell you guys a lot, like, the information I told you today is kind of like an overall of what I heard, and it's not stuff that is like secretive. Quick question: how long after Gabriel passed did these people get arrested? Well, I believe Asaro was almost immediately, because he did admit to hurting him and doing it. So as soon as Gabriel went into the hospital, everybody knew it was, I'm not even then. As soon as the first responders got there, they knew something wasn't right. So I don't remember exactly when they got arrested, but it was pretty much right away. Yeah, I don't know how she's going to respond when everybody testifies. Who knows? She's more vocal than he is. So who knows? What would be the sentencing if they can prove that his intent was not to murder poor Gabriel? Would they be able to sentence him to life? Not that he deserves to live, but would he be locked away? I don't know what sentence they would come up with, because that's really up to the jury. Life without the possibility of parole is actually the better sentence. That's what we initially wanted. That would be the win for us, because as we all know, death penalty in California, nobody really is put to death. So I mean, you're looking at, so if you're on the death penalty, you automatically get 3 appeals, and you live on death row, secluded from others, in a different living situation. Life without the possibility of parole, on the other hand, you get no appeals, and you're stuck in regular prison for the rest of your life. So when we thought about it, we definitely wanted life without the possibility of parole. We'll settle for the death sentence, but life without parole was something that we were more hoping to get for the both of them. Yeah, but they're both still going to be locked. Like Asaro himself already. Yeah, see, I think Texas does more death, right? Like, I think you guys put people to death more often than we do. Pearl shows no emotion now, but do you think she will selflessly show emotion? Pearl is an actress, so she'll probably do something. Did the ugly monster have family there today? No. Pearl's parents there today. Pearl's mother is dead. She passed away shortly after Gabriel, and her father will be there, I'm sure, to support her when time comes. Right, yeah, I think if she would have got caught doing this in Texas, I'm pretty sure, it'd have been way worse. Death penalty would have been like the ultimate. But yeah, I mean, California, I think we've put 1 person to death in the past 20 years. I could be wrong statistically, I'm not really sure, but it's been like so few and far in between that death penalty doesn't really mean anything in California. It just means that they get 3 appeals and they get to stay on death row until they die. I prefer life without the possibility of parole, because at least I don't have to pay for their 3 appeals. That's the least I can ask for, is not have to pay for their appeals. If I'm gonna have to pay for them to be in prison for the rest of their lives, death penalty, I have to pay for them to be in prison for the rest of their lives and still pay for their appeals. I'd rather not. Yeah. Is Pearl's suing the county, and if so, is he using the money for her defense? Pearl's father already sued the county. There was a settlement, and I don't know. I'm pretty sure some of that money went to her books. I can't say for sure, because he's usually there to support her. But I can tell you that the kids got money, and those, I believe, went into bank accounts for them for their future. And that, to me, is, I mean, who cares about the grandfather? I think the kids are much more important. So that, and that's just me, though. Do you think the monster's family will disown him? I hope so. No. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't put it past his mother actually knowing that he was being abused. And you know, when we see her in court, you know, she heard what I believe to be her name that was on the emergency card for Gabriel, and she just kind of, you know, that was about the most she had in regards to any kind of emotion. From what I understand, she doesn't speak English, so I don't even know if she understands what's happening in court, or the fact that her son has already admitted guilt. In her mind, he's probably still innocent, and, you know, who knows. Does the Sorrow have siblings? Does his family show up to court daily? I believe Asaro has a sister, but I don't really know anything about him other than what I've been told by people who have messaged the page, and that is specifically that he's always been a bully, and that he's always been the type that just picks on whoever's smaller than him. Right. I mean, I don't know if that'll happen, but if they do get a nice ass whooping, I can't say I'd be upset or unhappy about it. I mean, honestly. Yes. The only people that show up to court with me is Emily, who was Gabriel's one of Gabriel's cousins, and Olivia, who's also another cousin. They're separated by the sides of the family. Sandra, who was Gabriel's mother, was related to Emily, and I believe Olivia is related to Gabriel's grandfather's side. And that's about the majority of the people that show up to court for Asaro. Other than that, it's right now, it's they're, like I said, they're doing a documentary, so it's a documentary filmmaker and the guy who used to work at LA Times. There's another lady who's there. Can't remember her name right now, but she, hold on. But she's been there. She's also following the social worker trial. And then there's a couple of other reporters there, written and so forth. And like I said, as long as we keep posting, you know, the articles and whatever's news is coming our way, they'll keep following. But as soon as we stop posting, we stop giving them, you know, the recognition, these news media, the outlets will disappear. So today it was a lot less in regards to coverage, but we do have the documentary guy there, so that's cool. We have some, like I said, written article people there, journalists, and there is a lot of like interns and law student people, I believe, that keep coming. I'm really hoping that some of the social workers, like, who really want to know the truth about this case rather than what they're being fed, comes in. Do they have previous criminal records? I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm assuming that Asaro doesn't, because he was able to become a security guard. Why didn't Gabriel's father have rights to settle with the county, and why didn't he receive the money? I don't know why he would receive the money. He didn't do the lawsuit, so I'm not really sure. I can't, I mean, you gotta remember, Gabriel was living with his grandparents since he was a couple months old, which I found out today. I believe 4 months, if that's even true. I don't know. So I'm not really sure that the non-custodial parent would receive money. I mean, maybe he did. I don't know. I mean, I know, like I said, the most important thing to me is that the kids got money. At any point in time did the other children ever speak about? Well, no, the other kids didn't speak about child abuse because they were scared shitless. You got to remember that they were being abused too. So it's not like he was the only one. He was just the one that got it the worst. I don't know if Pearl or Sarah have been beaten in jail. I mean, I can hope, but I don't know. So, again, so all the kids were abused in some form or another. But Gabriel was beaten the worst because he was a nice little boy who was friendly. And that, I guess, constituted him to be gay, and he needed to toughen up and be shown how to be whatever. There is no court tomorrow. No. We are dark tomorrow. Do you know if the other kids have gotten any counseling and all this? Yes. Okay, guys. I'm going to finish up. I'm going to go grab my coffee and then I got to get to work. But have a great day. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on Monday. Thank you.